Tonight, we are continuing to follow the murder of Benjamin Anderson, a Phoenix man who was reported missing by his friends on Friday.
And later that night, police found his car abandoned and burned in a parking lot. Kim Powell's been following this bizarre case for us.
This is just off of Table Mesa Road, west of the I-17. This is where deputies say they found Benjamin Anderson's body. Now, there's not much out here. It's open desert and the sounds of target practice, but people who live in this area tell us this is where they saw crime scene activity on New Year's Eve, hours before Benjamin was reported missing. Around 1:40 p.m. on December 31st, Maricopa County detectives were investigating in a remote area on Table Mesa Road in New River. A body had been found, but it wasn't identified as Benjamin Anderson until 3 days later. So let's rewind to earlier that morning. Benjamin texted his friends around 8 a.m., canceling their brunch plans. He said he felt tired. That was the last his friends heard from him.
I knew that something was amiss because when I tried calling him around 12:15 on New Year's Eve, his phone went straight to voicemail.
Susan Disbanko says she talks to Benjamin, her best friend, every day. She grew even more worried when she found out he didn't show up to his parents' house like he was supposed to. By 6 p.m., Benjamin's family was asking his friends if they had heard from him. His friends went to his condo and found his credit cards, but his car was gone. Fast forward to around 8 p.m., and his friends filed a missing persons report. Susan and Dan Stahoviak reached out to the maker of his car to get GPS coordinates. They said it was at a Super 8 along I-17, but when they got there, it was gone. His friends started circling the area. It was after midnight when they spotted it.
That's when we drove into the Sheraton complex, decided to drive up the parking garage, and we got to the 4th floor, and there was Ben's Lexus sitting on the 4th floor.
Dan said 3 people were around the car, and then they drove off. When they turned onto the wrong way of a frontage road, they bailed and called police. Fast forward to between 3 and 4 a.m. They got one last GPS coordinate on Benjamin's vehicle. It was near the Sheraton again, this time torched. All while trying to find Benjamin, they had no idea MCSO was already investigating his death. MCSO is asking for the public's help in this case, hoping that anyone comes forward with information if they saw anything. Otherwise, they're remaining tight-lipped on this investigation. Reporting in New River, I'm Kim Powell for Arizona's Family.
All right, in our new episode of True Crime Arizona, the podcast, we go into much more detail of this timeline of events and what his friends believe could have been a factor in his disappearance. You can find the True Crime Arizona podcast wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts. Just look for the blue handprint thumbnail.